Oh, no, 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 no. Yo, oh, oh, oh. This is how we do it. Oh, wow, wow. This is how we do it. It's Friday night. Alright. Party's here on the west side. As I reach for my 40 and I pick it up. Designated driver, take the keys to my truck. Uh, hmm. Probably should have came up with a thumbnail first. This isn't the most appetizing. Probably should have came up with a thumbnail first. This is. Let's see. Hmm. This is how we do it. Check my Twitter. Gotta check the Twitter account. 1 second. Sorry if you just clicked on this video. I'm trying to, you know, get it out there to the world. Let everybody know that we're live in this joint. We're gonna talk some football for a little bit. I'm missing playing. I'm missing football. Even though NBA playoffs. There it is. NBA playoffs are going on right now. I miss my football. Trust me. That's where it's at. It's all about the football for me. Uh, 1 second. This is probably like the worst part about going live, like, cause you gotta do all this and oh, why did I thought that was a thing? I definitely felt like that was a thing. Let's just do this. Yeah, fuck it, why not? Uh, Gotta tweet it to Twitter and everything else, and I can't see any comments right now. Let's try this again. Nope, not YouTube Studios. Okay. Okay. And we're here. And we're live. Back at it again with the white vans. I'm going to turn it off. That was pretty loud. Um, 1 second. Here we go. Got to post it to the gram. So those people know. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. These injuries are popping up like crazy. I'm watching NFL Network right now too. And it's crazy, just these injuries are just popping up one after another, left and right. It's insane. But this is something that a lot of people foresaw happening, just for the simple fact that, um, there was no preseason football. You got guys going from 0 to 100. I won't say 100 because they're in training camp and practices, but you got guys going from 0 to 60 or 50 just to kind of get going and get back in football shape. And with that happening, it's going to cause a lot of injuries for sure. My bad. 1 second. I swear. This is going to be it. I just got to post this last one. NFL. Why not? football. Yeah, why not? Hashtag. Trying to keep my window open. Fantasy foot. What kind of tomfoolery? There we go. Hashtag fantasy foot. Whoa, 1 second. Why not? Alright, last one for real. My brain just went blank for some reason. I don't know why. Alright, there we go. Oh, NFL news. Boom. Okay, that was excruciating. I am so sorry about that. Alright, let's get this party cracking. Let's chit chat. Let's talk some football. Let's talk some football. I'm ready. So, like I was saying though, right now, as you guys can see on the screen, I have the week 2 preseason games that would have been going on right now. And so, with it being week 2, we know that we would have seen the starters, depending on the team and the starters. We would have definitely seen those guys probably play, maybe a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half. Who knows? Because most of the time it depends on the flow of the game. If the offense is going out there and they're getting like multiple 3-and-outs, or they go out there and they go 3-and-out, the coach is more likely to put them back out there just for, to get those reps in, to really show that they can do something. Come on. Hey, clipboard? Yeah? Let's try it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're just gonna post. And right in there. Run to Paris. Okay. That was random. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Then we're gonna do this. Gonna do that. And live chat. Here we go. So, but yeah, so it just depends on the team. So right now, week 2 preseason games. That is Thursday. We got Philly versus Miami. That game would have been interesting just for the simple fact that we got a chance to see maybe Philly's offense, which I think a lot of people have question about this year, what their offense is going to look like. Carson Wentz, obviously, we know what he is when he's healthy. Can he stay healthy? Those are all those questions that surround him. We also have Miami. I don't know what I also have, but we have Miami as well with the same situation. But I think Miami has team questions. Who's our starting this? Who's our starting that? Not just Ryan Fitzpatrick or Tua Tagovailoa, but we're talking about wide receivers. We're talking about running back. We're talking about offensive line. Miami's going through a true rebuild, and I'm excited to watch it unfold in front of my eyes. Because you guys know I love doing rebuilds. I love the idea of a rebuild. I love the whole process of going through that, finding the right guys for every position to eventually, hopefully, make the playoffs and then eventually, hopefully, win the Super Bowl. And so when you get that, it's really legit. Oh, my headset's broke, man. It's a new innovative headset. I'll make one for you. Uh, but so when you have that that many questions on the team with Miami, it's new and exciting. I mean, even from a coaching standpoint. Then we have the Carolina Panthers versus the New England Patriots. Now that game in itself would have wrote its own story because obviously we got Cam Newton, but it's at Foxborough, so it wasn't been visiting Charlotte. But we would have had Cam Newton going up against his former team in the Panthers, and that would have just made it for a more interesting game just in itself. Definitely seeing Cam in that New England offense and the way that's going to look like. So, I mean, we have a lot of offensive questions just like off the back of a couple of teams that we're not sure what teams are going to look like this year. I mean, but I think that's every year. Sometimes, most teams, the offense is going to be what it is. It's going to look like it's going to look, and you're not going to do anything about it. Well, you can't do anything about it. It's just it is. Same thing for Carolina. What is Teddy B going to look like at quarterback? There's a lot of quarterbacks that moved around this year, but Teddy B at quarterback for Carolina would have been a interesting play just to see how he would have looked against Bill Belichick led defense. Then we got the Jets, which Jets realistically, in my opinion, are in the same boat as the Miami Dolphins. Probably not as bad or not as serious. That would have been juicy. Yeah, that would have been a good one. Um, that Carolina game would have definitely been a good one. But then the Jets, I feel like the Jets are in the same boat as well. They just have a lot of questions. I personally am still not sold on Sam Darnold, even though like a lot of people are always like, "Oh, Sam Darnold is this guy. Sam Darnold is gonna do this, or Sam Darnold is gonna be this quality." And it's like, is he though? Like, is he really gonna be that good? And it's just I don't. We haven't seen the development or the growth of Sam Darnold. It seems like he's kind of like plateaued. Like he kind of gives us little sparks, like really fade sparks, like they're not there, and then sometimes he just blows up. And so that's going to be interesting to see what the Jets are going to look like offensively. And then I think even losing Jamal Adams on defense, I still feel like the Jets have an opportunity to have I wouldn't say a top 10 defense because it's not going to be that crazy, but they're still going to have a solid defense in my opinion. Like they still got some playmakers on defense. Losing Jamal Adams is big though. Any gym pickups as far as fantasy football or just in general like team pickups? Because like we're talking about team pickups, there's a lot of gems out there. Like I feel like people are not really putting a lot of onus on or talking about or even like respecting at all. Like I mean I'm not gonna say nobody's respecting, but Todd Gurley in Atlanta, like it's just like that got swept under the rug once he left LA. Like he went to Atlanta, ooh or whatever. But Todd Gurley in Atlanta, are you kidding me? With that offense with Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones and I'm not a Matt Ryan hater, but I just don't think Matt Ryan is as good as everybody thinks he is. But with Matt Ryan still pulling the trigger, which he's a lot better than most quarterbacks in the NFL. Um, but yeah, Todd Gurley in Atlanta, I think that was probably the one pickup because I just looked at Atlanta. That's one pickup that a lot of people are not even like really even putting any onus on or even really respecting. Honestly, when you really think about it and break it down. Um, I'm trying to look at some of the teams that are on the screen right now. I'm just trying to think if somebody had that pickup that was just like mind blowing, that next level pickup that's going to change the game. And off the top of my head, I can't think of anything because free agency this year was really dull, and it didn't have an opportunity to kind of explode or really go off. Unique Ngakwe in Jacksonville, he still won it out, and I was really interested to see where he was going to go. I think if we were in different circumstances, he would have been a guy that would have easily been on the move and would have found a new team, and it would have been crazy. In general, since it's hard to gauge new players. Yeah, I mean it's right now like not having a preseason. It's really fucking hard not having, like gauging players and finding out what guys are looking like. But like I'm sitting here watching the screen and I'm looking at my ticker and then like it seems like every other story like right now somebody just there are these soft tissue injuries. Like there's a lot of soft tissue injuries, and so like I know a lot of players don't like preseason, especially like veteran players. They don't like preseason, but I don't think people put enough respect on the preseason games and what they really mean, not only to like the low level players, but just to getting your body warmed up, getting your body excited for football, getting your body like ready and ramped up. Even if you're only going in there for a quarter or two, it's just nice to get knocked around a little bit, get a hit, take a hit, feel a hit, and go on about your day. But not having those preseason games to really kind of endure that, they really feel that, and like give yourself the opportunity to do that. Oh man, it's week one is going to be ugly. Like I feel like week one, maybe even possibly week two is going to be really fucking ugly as far as injuries goes, as far as the sloppiness of the football. Like when I put out my preseason video, I made a statement in there that I felt really confident in. I still feel confident in today. Was that I felt that a lot of teams didn't. Well, I felt like a lot of teams needed preseason, not only from on the field perspective, but from just a COVID situation perspective, whereas the stadiums would have had a chance to like, okay, do we want to allow fans? Let's allow so many fans with these protocols and things of this nature. It would have given us an opportunity to see what the teams would have looked like from that perspective, as far as like how do we get the players on the field, the coaches on the sidelines. Like this preseason is always a dress rehearsal. Like we say this and we preach this all the time. Preseason is a dress rehearsal for everybody. And why can't it have been a COVID-19 dress rehearsal as well? Whereas that, now we know how to keep players separated on the sidelines, or we're keeping players separated. Okay, we're keeping players separated on the, or not on the field, but like huddles. Like what the fuck? Like you really. I love football, but it's so hard to say we're gonna play football at 6 feet apart. Like that's so difficult. That's such a difficult task. But I get it. Like you're gonna try it. You're gonna do what you can as far as like keeping people 6 feet apart and all that. But it's stupid difficult. Like I don't see it. I really don't see it. Um, yeah, it's gonna be bad. Like week one is gonna be ugly. I'm not even excited for week one as much as everyone else is. I think we're just excited for football in general. But if we would at least had preseason, I would have knew how. I guess I would have got myself prepared to enjoy football a little bit better or differently, because, like I said, the sidelines are going to be different, celebrations are going to be different, like everything is going to be different now. The crowds is going to be football is where the fans are living. Like that's like any other sport in America. Football is the one sport that, as a fan, you feel like you can actually have an impact on a game, especially if you're at a home game with your team. Like, if you're at a home game, and like here in Kansas City, our team legitimately, like, I mean, obviously we have the record for the loudest stadium in the, in the league, and so it's like, I think maybe in the world actually, sorry, in the world, and so it's like, you can't you can't get that atmosphere. Like you can't get that energy. And I mean, from a player's perspective, think about how players are just kind of idle through the game, and then like a big play happens, and that energy and a surge of energy goes to their body, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we out here making plays now." You don't get that anymore. Like COVID-19 fucked some shit up, bro. And I think like for the NFL, like it's one of those things where the fans are a huge part of the game, a big part of the game. They make the game what it is, and it's not like the NBA or the NBA. Don't get me wrong, but the NBA don't, like in a normal NBA game. Yeah, 4 quarters. The crowd goes wild between like that second quarter to halftime, or mid fourth quarter into the late game if it's a close game. That's the one time that the fans are really involved in the game. But I feel like with the football game, like the fans are consistent, unless it's a blowout. Then at that point, then it's just like, eh. But like if it's like a regular football game, like things are gonna. Oh, see, Miles Sanders is week to week. I just seen that. It came across my screen. But the stadiums are gonna be weak too. Yeah, the stadiums are gonna be really weak, man. And it's like it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck. You think about, okay, Seattle even being one of those fan bases that has that home field advantage, if you will. Like that's not even a thing anymore. Like we're just playing traditional football. Everybody's playing in a neutral zone or a neutral site, if you will. And it's like that's cool, I guess. I mean, kind of just let teams be teams. We don't get that advantage. But then it's like, what's the point of having 8 home games or this many home games or whatever the games may be? It's that's this COVID shit. It's bad. It's bad for business. Um, but yeah, like Miles Sanders is week to week now. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah, see, and then I just seen the Titans wave Cole McDonald. I thought she was actually really good. He looked good in the combine, and that's really interesting. People see, and then like teams are just like moving players around like fucking little checker pieces. Like they don't know what they want. You don't know what you need. Like you don't really know what your team needs until you put your team out on the field and really give your team an opportunity to even like get out there and say, okay, well, that guard right there that we thought looked good at that position doesn't look good at that position, because they even say, like, a lot of players, when they interview, a lot of players are always talking about how um you keep going up against the same guy consistently, and then you kind of get annoyed with him, right? But then think about it, for instance, if a guy has a move or something he does, like Aaron Donald, for instance, if he has a move that he consistently keeps doing, and he's going up against a young guard. I mean, week one, week two of the practice, the young guard was getting ate up by Aaron Donald, but all of a sudden he knows what Aaron Donald likes to do, so then he's just going to control Aaron Donald. Well, you're not facing Aaron Donald every week, though, right? Like, yeah, you look good now, but then, like, let's put you up against Fletcher Cox or Geno Atkins or Chris Jones or some of the other big name D tackles in the league. DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead. Like, you start going up against those guys, and then all of a sudden this guard doesn't look as good as he did against Aaron Donald. Even though, I mean, Aaron Donald's one of the top guards in the league, or top defensive tackles in the league. But it's just the fact that you don't get to see your players against other players. And that's one thing that I loved about preseason. Like, you got to really see your flaws early enough to fix them. And that's why I feel like week one's going to come around and things are going to look ugly. They're going to be so sloppy. They're going to be so bad. And they're going to be so bad. And it's just going to be so disgusting. Like, oh, it's going to be so bad. But I guess we'll see. What can you do? What else I want to talk about? I was going to talk about fantasy football and how everyone's draft was doing. Let's see. So let me get some more bodies in here. I'm gonna tweet it out again, or retweet it, if you will. Get the conversation flowing. Okay. Tiger Woods, y'all. And I feel like a lot of people right now are watching NBA playoffs too, so that wouldn't surprise me. Like, oh, the NBA playoffs is live. Okay, yep, definitely didn't want to click on that. And Tiger Woods, yo. Boom. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you think about the games actually counting, like that's gonna suck because those are no takebacks, and that's something that I actually want to look at. So I think I seen something Gillette was not gonna allow any fans at their home games through the month of September or all the way up to the month of September. So or no through the month of September. So if that happens, right now you got like let's say for instance like okay the first 4 weeks you only play like 2 home games or you only play 1 home game, you're on the road for most of the time, that's fine, I don't care, I only got 1 home game out of 4 weeks, I got 1 home game. I'll take that, like okay yeah no fans the one time that we have a home game, that's cool. But then like when it's time for me to have home games, hopefully the COVID situation is passed, now I get back to home field advantage at that point. Somebody made a good point when I was on Twitter the other day. She said that if it's not fair that if one fan base gets to have fans or just some fans, that other teams should actually have fans as well. And I feel that like this, like I said, the NFL and football is just the one sport that fans have that impact on the game, have that interaction with the game, and have some kind of level of the game. Like you don't have a fan base called the 12th man for nothing, like right? Like that's where legit needs to be. Like that's what you legit need to do. Like it's just it's so frustrating. It's stupid. I keep saying that. Like I'm pretty sure you guys understand that it's frustrating. See. So another game or another matchup that I'm looking at, which would have been tomorrow, would have been Friday. Is that right? No, tomorrow's Thursday. I'm tripping. It would have been Friday. The Cincy versus Minnesota game would have been a good one too, because once again it would give us opportunity to see Joe Burrow, who was the number one overall pick, a guy that has the opportunity to realistically at this point. I mean, no one else has done. Hold on, there we go. No one else is gonna like take his starting job at this point, but it's just one of those things where we got to see Joe Burrow, and if he actually look as good as he does, I mean, but he has some weapons, bro. Since he got some weapons this year, Joe Burrow has an opportunity to go crazy off. Definitely win Rookie of the Year, the whole nine. Like he has the whole like legitness, like the possibility of going off this year, and no one actually like stopping him, just because of like the fact that you have AJ Green coming back, you have Tyler Boyd, you have I can't even think of the other receiver's name. I know you got Joe Mixon there. So like you have, and there's another receiver, I want to say Preston Williams. Is it Preston Williams? That sounds about right. I don't know why. But like you have all these weapons on the outside that you're gonna be able to like just sling it to, and then Joe Mixon to hand it off to. They also get Jonah Williams back too, and you get Jonah Williams back, and hopefully that bolsters your offensive line. And you got Billy Price at center. Like they have an offense to be reckoned with in Cincinnati, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it pans out for Joe Burrow because I think more pressure is on him than people are leading up to like believe. Like you're like, oh, he's number one overall pick. All right, cool. Like, nah, bro. Like you're number one overall pick on an offense that has opportunity to be high powered. Like, don't mess this up at all. Like you literally can't mess this up. And then the Minnesota offense, no Diggs now. They got Justin Jefferson in the draft, which is really nice. Don't get me wrong. And then I just seen today that Dalvin Cook decided to break off contract talks. So at this point, if you're Dalvin Cook, basically all you're saying is that deuces. I'm not giving up on Minnesota because what was probably happening, and we don't see this stuff. What was probably happening is Minnesota was lowballing him to his expectations. He felt like he was worth. Oh, excuse me. He felt like he was worth like top running back money. Elliott, Bell, those guys. I mean, they were trying to put him in like tier 2 category running back. Like, all right, bro, you're good, but so he probably came out and said, you know what, you're right. I'm not as good as I think. Well, my performance hasn't been as good as I think I've been. So let me go out here and perform and go dummy off. Let me go bet on myself and I'm gonna go dummy off. And then when we go back to the tables, then you're gonna have to pay me. Because I mean, realistically, we know Dalvin Cook is good. Like everybody knows that Dalvin Cook is good, but it's that hard asterisk next to his name that's like when he's healthy. Like when you have to put that behind any player's name, it's hard for teams to actually sign off and say, okay, yeah, this is our guy and we're gonna keep him. But when you're that guy and you're consistently good, like that's one thing. Like everybody, like I think a lot of people hate Aaron Donald, but you have to respect Aaron Donald. Like he plays at a high level consistently and he's healthy consistently. He's on the field for a majority of the time. And so with that being said, if you're a player doing those things, you deserve that kind of money. If one person doesn't pay, if one person doesn't pay it, somebody else will. And that's just what it comes down to. So it just comes down to health at this point. And so if you have an opportunity to keep a guy So if you have an opportunity to keep a guy that's not only playing at a high level, sorry, on the phone all of a sudden wants to blow up. One second. Alright, get rid of that. Get back to the chat. Okay. So, but if you have a guy that's consistently playing at a high level and it's consistently on the field, then yeah, pay that man. And that's one thing, like, this is a touchy conversation. This is a touchy subject. But Rob Gronkowski is a legit tight end when he's healthy. Like when you have to put that behind a player's name, you lose some flair right there, right? Like in my personal opinion, that guy loses a lot of flair. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in the game when he's healthy." All right. What is this intermission? Sorry, I need to check my phone. But you can't say Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in the game when he's healthy. Like you just can't consistently keep doing that and just overlook that when he's healthy part, because that's like a lot of people always say, or a lot of evaluators always say, the best ability is the player's best ability is his availability, which is so true. Like that's 100% truth. Like I don't care if I have an opportunity to go off, for 10 weeks in the season, and then all of a sudden, the last 6 or 7 games, I'm hurt, and I might come back for the playoffs. Like what? No, like you don't want that. If you're paying a guy top dollar at his position, you want him at least for the first, through the regular season, obviously. But then you would want him for that first playoff game or second playoff game. Then if you lose him at the back end of the playoffs, then you're like, oh fuck, you'll be mad, but he got you all the way to that point doing what he does best, and so you kind of have to live with those results. I'm not saying that you want somebody to get hurt at all. I mean, realistically, you want your guy to be healthy through the whole entire process. But it just depends. Realistic, if a guy has to be hurt, you want him to be hurt. I would say maybe week 1, week 2, and then he's good for the remainder of the season. But you don't want a guy that's like a Rob Gronkowski, in my opinion, that's like, oh, I'm good through weeks 1 through 8. I'm about to sit out weeks 9, 10, and 11, but I'll be back for weeks 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, and 17. And it's like, no, bro, like I want you the whole entire time. And then like even then, like, oh, week 15 hits and I might get hurt again, though I might have to miss another 3 or 4 weeks well into the playoffs. And so like I don't understand that from that perspective when a lot of players are like, oh no, this guy is good, or like a lot of people honestly, or a lot of fans are like, oh, this guy's really good, this guy's that. It's like, but it's always when he's healthy. Like the one thing that you could say about Aaron Rodgers is he's been consistently healthy through the majority part of his career, outside of what, like, was it 2 3 years ago when he had the collarbone. And so it's like, and even when he had the collarbone, he wound up coming back anyways and playing late in the year. But that's crazy. But like, so when that stuff like that happens, it's like, if this guy's consistently always healthy, why would I turn that away? Why would I give that up? Like, no, I'm gonna sign that guy. But with Dalvin Cook, and like I said, in the Dalvin Cook situation, when it's something we don't see as a fan, is that Minnesota was probably lowballing him by his standards, which is cool. I understand. If you feel like you're worth that kind of money, then get your money, make your money. I'm not gonna knock any man trying to get his paper. Like, go for it. But if Minnesota saw you as like a tier 2 because you can't stay healthy, then you have to live with that. Like, but at the same time, you say, okay, you say, okay, I'm not gonna do, and I don't think this means anything. I don't think them ending contract talks is gonna like mean Dalvin Cook is gonna get franchise tag or some wizzy crazy stuff. Like, no, this is Dalvin Cook saying, okay, let's just hold off on the contract talks. We can't come to a good middle ground. I'm gonna go out here and show you that I'm worth the money that I feel like I'm worth, and then at that point, your numbers have to come up, or just let me go, or more likely tag them. And that just, it is what it is at that point. But even then, like, if he goes out next year and he gets hurt, then it's like Minnesota's like, see, like, it's a double edged sword. It sounds really bad. Like, it sounds like you're a really bad human being for it. But then at the same time, like everyone says, it's a business, and you have to do what's right for the company or the business, if you will. And if having a guy that that can't give you 16 plus games not on the field, like, you got to live with that. Like, and I mean, everybody wants everybody to be healthy all the time, but it's football. It's Injuries are bound to happen. It's just you're running, jumping, and tackling all the time, and it's stuff is bound to happen. I don't know. I think a lot of people are gonna make a big deal out of the Dalvin Cook situation, and they shouldn't. I don't see it being a big deal. And then we had the tight ends. What was it, the tight end signings last week, where George got his money, then Travis got some more money, and that's somebody was saying. I was watching something, and they said Travis is on his third contract with the Chiefs, and I mean the guys played really good ball. I mean, outside of his rookie campaign where he got banged up, and I think he missed the whole season or a good majority of the season or something like that, and we just didn't know what we had at tight end. And then he came back and he's been solid, and he's been one of the best tight ends in my personal opinion, no biased opinion. It's probably borderline biased, but Travis Kelce, like, is like one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end in the league. Even when Rob Gronkowski was there, like, I understand why people like Rob. Rob is a extreme mismatch nightmare. Like, this dude is a monster at it. The truth is the truth. But like, this guy's an extreme mismatch nightmare. I give anybody that credit when it comes to Rob Gronkowski. Dude's like, what, 6'7", 270 pounds, and he moves like a locomotive. Like, too big for a safety, too small, or too big for a safety, too fast for a tight end or a linebacker. Like, the whole spiel. Like, that's Gronkowski to a T. And even when you put a guy that's probably can size him up and control him a little bit, he's still gonna out physical him because he's so big. Like, I get it. I really get it from that standpoint, but Rob Gronkowski can't stay healthy. So it's like, that right there is like a big knock. Like, I just go back to that whole, like, when he's healthy thing. Like, I hate that. I hate, like, oh, this dude's one of the best in the league when he's healthy. And it's like, I hate when people say that. It's probably one of my biggest pet peeves, if anything. Looking at some more games on the schedule, just to chalk it up, we got the Cleveland Browns. So the Cleveland Browns versus the Green Bay Packers on Saturday. I definitely would have tuned in for that game, just because we don't know what the Browns are this year, right? Like, they brought over Kevin Stefanski, I think I said his last name right, from Minnesota, who was the offensive coordinator there, and a guy that can legitimately, like, open up that offense for Baker Mayfield. But I was talking to a guy I work with, and that offense has a lot of mouths to feed. And the same thing can be said for the Chiefs offense or the Baltimore offense or any other offense out there. But The Browns have a lot of mouths to feed. And we're talking about Jarvis. We're talking about OBJ. We're talking about David Njoku, Austin Hooper, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They have a lot of people to feed, which it could be a blessing and a curse all at the same time. Because like if you line up Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on the backfield, that can shake up your whole offense at that point, right? And you got two tight end sets that you can get away with, which will shake up your whole offense as well. You got two legit receivers, in my personal opinion, guys that are both in 6 foot and under club. Like these guys can go out there and cook. You know what I mean? It's crazy how much offense they have in place that they can get away with so much. But then at the same time, it's like, what's going to happen when the Browns are always loaded? The Browns are always loaded, literally always loaded, and they just never hit home. And they're even loaded on the defensive side of the ball too. That's what's even crazier. They crash real hard. They take a loaded rocket. Like I say all the time, you can have the world's best weapon. Doesn't mean anything if you can't hit. And like it's just what it comes down to. Like the Browns just. But when you break down the Browns, when you look at them, so for one, the OBJ trade happened, and so that was no like saying, oh, the Browns are bringing in people. I think realistically, the Browns' biggest issue, if we're talking about Browns, the biggest issue with that organization is consistency or lack thereof. Like what now they're in their, like last year was Freddie Kitchens, who was the former offensive coordinator. They fired Hugh Jackson, who they did give Hugh a good stint, and he just he wasn't doing it. He didn't. I don't know what it was, and I'm not gonna say a Hugh fan, but like Hugh Jackson was doing some stuff. Like he was decent, but he just wasn't getting over the hump. And I really think it was like a combination of everything, like the lack of talent, and maybe he just wasn't the right coach for the situation. Whatever the case may be, it just never got right with Hugh. And then so they fire Hugh and they go into this whole interim thing with Greg Williams and everything. And then they bring in Freddie Kitchens and say, oh, well, Freddie Kitchens has a good relationship with Baker Mayfield. They're gonna be fine. Let's do it this way. Okay, that makes sense. But then you take into consideration you have a young football team, and this is something that like when it comes to coaching that a lot of people don't talk about either, is that when it comes to a football team, these are grown men / young adults. So it's hard to find people that can gain that respect and that overall attention of those players. And so if you don't have a guy that can get that attention or a guy that doesn't have the resume, and that's one thing like you could say about Bill Belichick, and I always go with Bill Belichick for like pretty much everything, but that's one thing you can say about Bill Belichick is that when you go to New England, if you're a player, regardless of rookie or vet, and you go to New England and Bill Belichick's your head coach, what are you going to say to Bill? If Bill say, hey, I need you to do it like this, not like this. Hey, I need you to be here and not there. And are you going to say no? Are you going to ignore him? Or are you going to like, man, he don't know what he's talking about? No. You're going to listen. This man got like, what, 7, 8 Super Bowl rings? Like, come on. Like, you're not going to ignore Bill. Like, you're going to listen to everything he has to say because he has a resume. So if you take a guy like Freddie Kitchens and you put him on a young football team with young adults and, veteran players, I'm not going to say they're ignoring him because he's still the coach and he has that respect and that title, but they're not going to digest what he says as much as a player would digest what Bill Belichick says or what Doug Peterson says or Andy Reid or even John Gruden or any of those coaches that have had those resumes. Like, when those guys talk, people listen. When Freddie Kitchens talked, people were just like, bro, but what have you done? Like, what have you put out there for me? So, anyways, that happened last year. I think realistically with the Browns, they just didn't have that really good leadership at the helm. Now they're bringing like Kevin Stefanski, the old Minnesota offensive coordinator. He's going to be a guy that's going to give you a little bit more stability on the offensive side of the ball, but I think the maturity of the team needs to be questioned at this point. And as much as I'm not the biggest Mike Tomlin fan, and I'm really not the biggest Mike Tomlin fan at all, they need Mike Tomlin. Cleveland needs Mike Tomlin because if Cleveland gets a Mike Tomlin with his attitude and his no-nonsense attitude and his obviously winning pedigree at this point because he's won, I think that putting him on that team would make that team a Super Bowl team, in my opinion. And like I said, I'm not the Mike Tomlin fan, but Mike Tomlin, from a player standpoint, a person-to-person player standpoint, Mike Tomlin can get people to play. And I'll give him that much. Now, we're talking about as far as coaching and putting together things, no. If the Cleveland Browns roster consistently, like as simple as it is currently, and you put Mike Tomlin on that roster, I guarantee you Mike Tomlin can get that team to the Super Bowl. That's just how I feel. And like I said, I'm not the biggest Mike Tomlin fan at all. The Bears. The Bears. Oh, we're back to these offenses again. We're talking another offense that has explosive ability. Like they could be right there with like the Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Like we're talking about explosive offenses. They have that capability of being that explosive with a lot of guys on that roster that gives them that ability. But you got the wrong trigger man. I don't think Trubisky is gonna like. And I actually seen a news report that came up. Okay, I seen a news report that came up that said that Trubisky, or somebody said that Trubisky doesn't look like the same player as last year. 1 second. One second. Sorry. Okay, but I seen a report that said Trubisky doesn't look like the same player that he was last year. He looks like a different player, or like basically saying he looks better. And so, who would the Bears have been playing this week? So the Bears would have played Denver, and that would have been a matchup for Trubisky with that Denver's defense. But anyways, so like we would have had Trubisky, and we got Nick Foles. Nick Foles is a consistent, clean trigger man. I think he's a little bit better than Alex Smith to this perspective that I think he takes a little bit more deep shots. I think he's more confident in his game than Alex Smith was. But I think realistically, if you look at it, Trubisky just isn't the guy. They got all the, as far as weapon wise goes. But then you take it into consideration, or you flip it to the other side, you look at their offensive line, and I'm a big trench guy. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, you definitely seen that I'm always talking about offensive linemen, or I've been talking about offensive linemen lately. Um, but when it comes to the trenches, the Bears on offense are really weak in my opinion. They're still trying to find their way, and once again, the Bears were one of those teams that probably needed this preseason to really find out what they had at the offensive line position and really find the best starting five. And that's so important when you're talking about a young quarterback like Trubisky who's still trying to find his way. He's like really trying to find his way, and if you can't give him that kind of protection or that kind of confidence in the guys in front of him, then he's going to consistently keep folding, and it's like eventually he's going to wash out like not Derek Carr, but David Carr. Jesus, they didn't want to come out. So like he's gonna wash out like David Carr did, where you lose confidence in the guys in front of you, and that's not his fault at all at that point, but it's eventually just gonna happen. Like we gave you everything on the outside, but the trenches isn't good. And I was talking to a guy on Twitter about that. I was like, legitimately give me a solid offensive line over any elite skill position. Legit, like I can have 5 starters, or I say 4 elite starters like the Browns do, and I would still take that over a solid offensive line any day of the week. Give me give me an elite left tackle, an elite right tackle, and solid guards and a solid center. I can beat anybody. I really feel like you can beat anybody in the league when you have that. And so if you can build your trenches up, you have a better chance to win. And when it comes to the Bears, they don't have a good offensive line in my opinion. Now you flip it to the defensive side of the ball, I think the Bears are going to pick up right where they left off defensively. They have a little bit of a new defensive scheme last year, so that kind of changed up the game a little bit. But I think Khalil Mack is still going to be good. You got Akeem Hicks there. He's still going to be good. Like, you got guys that are still going to be making plays for that Bears defense. They're going to pretty much just put the Bears on the map and put the Bears in the playoffs. I think if Trubisky was slightly a better quarterback, the Bears probably would have won a Super Bowl. Like, was that 2 years ago? The double doink, if you will. So, like, that's where the Bears are at right now. And you still got one of the best, if not the best pass rusher and edge rusher in the league. I still feel like I could pick Khalil Mack as like the best pass rusher. Obviously there's a lot of good solid pass rushers in the league, but Khalil Mack, that dude, and Aaron Donald's that dude too. Oh man, somebody needs to, some GM out there, like I don't know if anybody will ever see this, but if you're a GM out there, before they like get too old and retire and they're still in their prime, Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack need to be on the same defensive line. Not in the Pro Bowl. I'm talking about like on a actual 17, we're gonna say 17 game season. Like we need these men on a defensive line together. Oh my God, the havoc that would be created by those two guys, it would be crazy. It'd be insane. It would literally be insane. But I think you put all that stuff in perspective though, with the Bears, they need to, they really need to figure out what they got at Trubisky. Matt Nagy, I don't think is the problem. I think Matt Nagy comes from a pedigree of Andy Reid's coaching tree, which is really good. They just need to know if Trubisky's that guy or not, and if he's not, then there's some decent quarterbacks coming out next year in college football, and unfortunately, college football got canceled, so we don't know if those guys are going to pick up where they left off, if they're going to plateau, if they're going to get better or what. But there's some solid quarterbacks coming out next year, and Trubisky could be looking at the Blake Bortles situation, where we've consistently gave you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to be a starter. Even had the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl playing the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, and he just could not, like he just couldn't get it going. Don't have anything with Trubisky. I figured it out for them. He's stupid. But they don't. But you got to give it that try. You got to give it that college try. Like if you gotta, I think this is one of my biggest character flaw. Like I give things consistent tries. Um, okay, there we go. So I give things consistent tries just to be sure that I gave it my all. And I think from the Bears' perspective, like, and in the NFL, you don't have time to burn. Players get older, players want to get paid, and all those things along those lines. So you don't have that kind of time to be sparing. But at the same time, you don't want to just say, well, we took you number 2 overall, and we got rid of you. I bet you get hella views. I probably will. Uh, but like if you're the Bears, like you just want to make sure that like okay, we gave Trubisky everything we got. We put weapons around him. Now, like I said, right now the offensive line play is going to be a question. They didn't. I don't feel like they addressed it. I can't remember what they did in the draft, but I don't feel like they addressed it really well in the draft, and so that really hurt them too. Um, ew. Okay. Uh, so like they didn't address it really well in the draft. It's still gonna leave Trubisky open to that, but yeah, like if I had this and it's so crazy because like even in Pat Mahomes' situation, a lot of people feel as though like, and this is just maybe this is just the players like, and we don't know this like unless there's another parallel timeline out there, but take Trubisky and put him in Kansas City, and then take Pat Mahomes and put him in Chicago. Are they the same? Is it the same exact situation? Are we talking about Trubisky as one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league right now? Are we talking about Pat Mahomes as being one of the trashiest quarterbacks in the league right now? And it's so hard to say that, and it's so hard to believe that right now, just for the standpoint that you're like, no, that's not possible because it's Patrick Mahomes. But the coaching, the players, the environment, whatever the case may be, like maybe that's what it was. The year that Alex Smith said, or the year that Alex Smith started in front of Pat Mahomes, where Trubisky got thrown to the wolves, and you would have thought, like in a lot of cases, and this may have been something Trubisky needed. Trubisky may just need to chill for a little bit and watch somebody else play some NFL football, and then come in and play. But then at the same time, I think when he came out of North Carolina, he only had like 10 games started. So it's one of those like lack of experience in general, or was it that he didn't have enough NFL experience? He didn't have enough, veteran leadership in the quarterback room. Like there are so many questions, and like, and if you're the Bears, you got to check this mark. All right, maybe year one he didn't have enough weapons. Let's go out and get Trey Burton. Let's go get Allen Robinson. Let's draft Anthony Miller. Let's bring in Taylor Gabriel. Let's do these things. Okay, year two you took a step forward. Maybe you need a little bit of this. Jordan Howard isn't the guy. Let's go out and get David Montgomery and give him an opportunity to kind of give you a better dual threat running back. All right. Year three happens. Now the offensive line looks really shaky. Maybe that's not what it is. Maybe you need the offensive line too. Like they really didn't. Like I said, I can't remember. I have to look it up, but I don't think they did too much to address the offensive line either. So it's like if you're a Trubisky lover or you're a Trubisky believer, if you will, if you're a Trubisky believer, you're going to consistently make, not excuses, but you're going to keep saying, like, well, if he had this, or if he was doing this, like, say, for instance, you look at the Baltimore Ravens situation, they got Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, and then they just drafted, I want to say, Orlando Brown at right tackle. And so, like, and then he's had one of the best guards in the NFL for the longest time, Marshall Yanda. And so, like, he's always had like some kind of stability at the offensive line position throughout his young career, but he's had that. So if you're a Trubisky lover and you're saying, "Oh, well, look at Lamar Jackson, he had this," and then people are like, "Well, look at Pat Mahomes, he has this, and he has Schwartz and Eric Fisher a tackle and this that, and he has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce," and it's like, okay. And it's like that you keep like I said, if you're a Trubisky lover, you're gonna keep naming this stuff off and saying that like, well, if Trubisky was in this situation, think about what he would have done. And realistically, like for me, I think realistically for me, if anything, I would like to see. Then this is a long shot. I would have liked to see Trubisky go to New England, like because and at that point, I think all the naysayers, everything, any Trubisky lover would have shut up. But if Trubisky goes to, like if Trubisky went to New England and he looked like poop and he didn't start and Bill Belichick was like, I'm done, like get him out of here, then at that point it would have been over. It literally would have been over. Like no more questions about Trubisky. Trubisky would have been done and everything along those lines. But if you take Trubisky and you put him, like let's say for instance the Dolphins, and he looks like poop, then everybody's like, well, he's in with the Miami Dolphins. Or like if Trubisky does go to New England and he balls out, then people are like, see, told you it was just this, that, and the other. And it's like, I don't know, it's just always going to be something why it didn't happen for Trubisky or should have happened for Trubisky. And it's so crazy. It's legit. It's like that guy is he's fighting an uphill battle at this point. And I personally, if I'm the Bears, you got to start considering the idea of separating from him. And I think that's why they brought in Nick Foles, is just to kind of give them the opportunity to have the ability to eventually say, okay, well, Nick can come in and do it. Why can't you? And you've been in this offense for how long now? And that's the crazy part. Nick Foles, I don't know if he knows how much he knows of the offense, but I mean, he did play here. He did play with Andy Reid, and the offenses are probably similar in some standpoints. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what Nick Foles do, because Nick Foles can be mess around and be a quality fantasy starter. If we're talking, a little bit of fantasy nugget there, like you can get Nick Foles undrafted pretty much, and that man might end up starting week 1 and looking good. That man was supposed to go off last year, and he got hurt week 1. That was so trash. I was excited for Nick Foles in Jacksonville too. Oh, that was horrible. Well, let's see what else we got on here. What else are we talking about? Seattle Seahawks. And that was something that came up too. Like, this is probably going to be my last subject. But that was something that I was thinking about today too, as far as like preseason goes, is that without preseason, I don't think we have Russell Wilson. Like, as much as people knock preseason, both from a fan and player standpoint, if we didn't have a preseason, it would have been really interesting to see what would have happened with Russell Wilson's career. Because the reason why we've seen Russell Wilson starting was because he went off in preseason. The reason why we seen Arian Foster start was because he went off in preseason. Like, we're talking about some preseason MVPs that eventually became, league stars. And so it's like preseason is needed from that perspective. I just want to bring that up because I've seen Seattle and it's just like oh man, I really miss preseason football. Like, it's just, it gives you an opportunity to see everybody and see the whole roster from top to bottom, and really see what your teams are going to do and keep, because there's some players out there who don't get their light shine, or don't get the light shined on them enough, that probably can ball out for a lot of guys that are starting on 53-man rosters. That's just my personal opinion, because I feel like a lot of times talent is hidden on a lot of NFL rosters, and some teams do it on purpose. Like, for instance, Darren Waller with the Baltimore Ravens, because I'm watching NFL Network and they're talking about Baltimore and Lamar. But Darren Waller was on the Baltimore Ravens, and he could have been killing it with Baltimore at tight end, and he was a hidden gem, and went through his whole life story, and it was bad. It was some bad stuff he went through, but then he finds himself in Oakland, and look what he is now, like one of the league's premier up and coming tight ends, and it's like, there's a lot of hidden gems and there's a lot of hidden talent on a lot of NFL rosters. And without NFL preseason, we just don't get those. We don't get to see that. And that's frustrating for me, because that's the part of the game that I like. That's the part of the game I enjoy, is watching those guys that nobody talks about shine and show up and show out. And then people are like, oh, where did he come from? And then everyone's a fan of his. But like me, the whole entire time being a fan of his times 10, So I don't know. That's just my personal opinion on my take on it. That's all I have for you guys in this live stream, though. I really hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. Sorry it was kind of all over the place, but I just want to talk some football, talk some fantasy football, and put out something for you guys to watch. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday because we are going to be doing it next Wednesday too for week 3, and we're just going to talk some more football. I mean, talk some fantasy football draft. Maybe I have my draft by then, and we can talk about mine, whatever the case may be. So if you're not a footballologist yet, definitely make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to become a footballologist, and stay safe, football fans.